Now, data from the Ghana Mining Repository shows that over 100 mining-related licenses were issued in the last week of former President Akufo-Addo's New Patriotic Party government. Out of the 103 licenses issued in the year 2025, 102 were granted between January 1st and January 6th, before the swearing in of President John Dramani Mahama. This means only one license has been issued under the current government. We'll bring you a breakdown of the figures shortly, but first, 2 persons have died and 1 in critical condition in a renewed illegal mining siege on the Tano-Anwia Forest Reserve in the Awin municipality of the Western region. JoyNews can confirm that 2 groups who have laid siege in the forest on Wednesday engaged in a fight leading to the death of 2 and 1 in critical condition with severe gunshot wounds. The armed groups, led by known political act, have taken over the biodiversity area and mining illegally since power changed hands, threatening the lives of forestry officials and concessionaires. 11FM's Erastus Asaridonko reports.
The Tano-Anwia Forest Reserve was invaded early last year by known political actors in the Awin municipality, spearheaded by armed thugs. Clean Jobs, the company with a legal concession in the area, has been teaming up with the Forestry Commission to ward off the illegal miners, preventing full-scale destruction of the reserve. But after a momentary respite following a change in power, 2 armed groups have taken over, laying siege and engaging in the illegal mining of the biodiversity area. Sources on the ground accuse the MP for the area of sponsoring the fresh siege on the forest with close to 17 excavators. But Oscar Oforilabi has denied involvement, but confirms those mining are party boys. Members of a rapid response team dispatched to stop the illegality were later accosted outside the forest area by the illegal miners on motorbikes, taken to an unknown location and assaulted. JoyNews checks revealed they seized the weapons of some of the forest guards. On Wednesday, the 2 armed groups who have laid siege in the Tano-Anwia Forest Reserve engaged in a fight, leading to the death of 2 and 1 in a critical condition with severe gunshot wounds. Sources at the Forestry Commission say forest guards are unable to discharge their duties anymore because of the latest invasion. Forest reserves affected in the latest wave of invasion include Tano-Anwia, Tano-Nimre, and the Yoyo Forest Reserves. Reporting for JoyNews, Erastus Asaridonko, Awin Municipality, Western Region.
Well, the big headline is 103 mining licenses issued in just the first 19 days of this year. But is this just the tip of the iceberg? JoyNews researcher has been analyzing the numbers, and lead data analyst here at JoyNews, Isaac Kofi, joins me with details. Kofi, what do we know?
Talking about the big headline, 103, but if I take you back to memory lane, 1995 to 2025, the figure definitely is just a tip of the iceberg. 2,127 is the total number of mining licenses issued since 1995. And we've had how many presidents? 5 presidents in this period. Now, what we're going to do is to use the Ghana Mining repository to actually analyze this number, that 2,127 mining licenses issued under this period. Now, if you look at Jerry John Rawlings from 1995 to 2000, how many licenses did he actually issue? The number is there, 24. Out of that, over 2,000 licenses, he issued 24 of them. President John Ajekun Kufuor issued 14 licenses from 2001 to 2008, stretching it to, Atamils, may so rest in peace, Professor Fifi Evans Atamils, may so rest in peace, he actually issued 7 licenses, the least amongst all we've seen so far, from 2009 to 2012. John Dramani Mahama comes to the picture, and from 2012 to 2016. Why 2012? Because he stepped in when Atta Mills, passed away. 2012 to 2016, if you look at the data, he issued 44 licenses. If you look at the data from the repository, then we come to the big number. 2,037, almost like a year. 2,037 licenses issued by or under President Akufo-Addo from, 2017.
But remember, during his campaign, he said he would regularize small-scale mining, right?
Exactly. That could be one of the reasons why we saw a number of licenses. And we also know that it was this period that we saw, the hike in illegal mining activities and, irate youth also besieging mining, well-licensed mining, companies, like what happened in Obuasi, for instance. But beyond this, we come to the first 19 days of 2025. What is the picture? 103 licenses were issued. Now, out of that 103, 21 went to small-scale licenses and 8 were for prospecting. Out of the 103. Now, let's break it down to the administrations. Now, in his last 6 days,
go back to the last slide. So if 21 small scale, 8 prospecting,
the rest goes to the big scale mining, right? Exactly. So if you look at the 103, let's break it down. 102 of that really was actually issued in the last 6 days of President Akufo-Addo, between January 1 to January 6th. And then when John Dramani Mahama came to power, we've seen on the 19th of January, another license was actually issued. Beyond this as well, we know that if you look at the data from the last week of Akufo-Addo, just look at it. January 1st, it was a holiday, but 67 mining licenses, according to the repository, were actually issued. Second, 11. Then on the 3rd, we had 19. And on the 6th, 5 licenses, making 102. So in fact, if you do the math, in that 103, over 90% were issued in the last 6 days of President.
I understand that all these days were public holidays. So 2nd January was a holiday. 3rd was? Really?
In fact, according to the data, if you go to the data, you will see all the companies that these licenses actually went to, and you can count them. And we are learning that in just one day, 67 licenses were actually issued. The picture is even different, or the numbers are bigger. When you look at it in 2024, a number of licenses in a day, you could have about 180 licenses issued. But what we're learning is that in the last 6 days before President Akufo-Addo left office, 102 licenses were issued.
Well, so on the day when they do their analysis of the applications, 67 could qualify for a license, but again, it really opens a window for questioning.
Absolutely,
just before that, 102 licenses were granted before the president, exited. Is it something we could look at transition in that period? Should you grant licenses or should you not? But a joint study by the University of Port Harcourt in Nigeria and the Kwame Nkrumah University of Science and Technology, Kumasi, has unveiled alarming findings regarding the presence of cancer-causing substances in meat singed with different fuel sources. The study, published in the journal Environmental Health Insight, has found that meat singed with tires in Ghana contain high levels of harmful chemicals called polycyclic aromatic hydrocarbons. These chemicals can increase the risk of cancer. Emmanuel Bright-Kweku of our Science and Agriculture Desk has more.
Study led by Prosper Menu Abdullahi from the University of Port Harcourt tested meat singed with tires, firewood and LPG gas in Ghana's 5 largest cities, Kumasi, Accra, Koforidua, Tamale and Ho. The researchers collected 180 samples of cattle and goat meat singed using the different fuel types. They found that meat singed with tires had the highest levels of polycyclic aromatic hydrocarbons, especially a dangerous carbon called benzopyrene.
There were some traces of this pH, which is carcinogen very serious carcinogen. We found out that there were traces of pH even before they were singed. However, after singing, in fact, the contamination went very high. It was so much. And among these three fuel types, the ties that are used most often these are abattoirs, which is the Kumasi Abattoir, Accra, Koforidua, Tamale, and Ho, were high. The meats which were singed with ties were very high. And these meats were much purchased because of whatever reason I mentioned earlier on. Also, surprisingly, we found out that the concentrations were higher in samples that were bought from the Kumasi Abattoir.
Children and older adults are more at risk from these chemicals. The study recommends using safer methods like LPG gas for singeing meat and calls for stricter rules to prevent the use of tires.
What we are encouraging is that the stakeholders should have something to do at the abattoir so that all of them would come use the LPG. In fact, there's a process that is started in using the waste at the abattoir to generate gas for them. At a point in time, they stopped it. So if that can be pushed, and yes, we find some traces using LPG, but that one looks far better than using the firewood and the tar.
For Joy News, my name is Emmanuel Kweku.
Well, away from that, Parliament was forced to momentarily suspend proceedings earlier today when MPP MPs disrupted proceedings with songs and chants. The caucus was protesting what the group said was a lack of representation in Parliament for Ablekuma North constituency. Parliamentary Affairs correspondent Kweku Asante reports.
NPP MPs banging their tables, singing and chanting on the floor of Parliament as they vow not to allow any government business proceed if Ablekuma North constituency is not represented in Parliament. The majority leader, Mahama had earlier presented the business statement for the ensuing week, but the minority were not happy that no mention was made of their demand for the EC to be provided with security needed to complete the collation of results in that constituency. Minority Leader Alexander Afenyo-Markin drummed home this demand of his caucus.
Mr. Speaker, as we speak, the EC has not received the necessary protection from the Elections Security Task Force to enable it conclude the collation and final declaration of Ablekuma North parliamentary elections. Mr. Speaker, the Electoral Commission complained of threat to the lives of its staff. The Electoral Commission complained of destruction of its properties. I would want my respected colleague who has just come to take steps in ensuring that Dr. Dampari, the IGP, who is the head of the Election Security Task Force, is able to provide sufficient security to enable the EC undertake its constitutional mandate. Mr. Speaker, we raise this as a serious democratic matter because it is a blot on our otherwise peaceful democracy. This is supposed to be a 276-member chamber. We are 275. The people of Ablekuma need a representation, and government must take steps in ensuring that the Electoral Commission declares. Thank you.
Right after he finished speaking, the NPP MPs rose to their feet with placards bearing various inscriptions, singing and chanting.
Do something. No business. Take your hands off Ablekuma North.
The second deputy speaker, who was presiding over the House, could not control Parliament and suspended for half an hour. Leadership on both sides had an agreement and returned for government business to continue. Later, the House approved the nomination of Mohammed Muntaka Mubarak as Interior Minister and 4 other regional minister designates.
Now from that, the Education Minister Haruna Idrisu has announced a groundbreaking initiative to power all basic and secondary schools with solar energy by end of the year. According to the minister, the aim is to end basic and secondary schools' dependence on the national grid. Speaking at a press briefing to commemorate the International Day of Education themed AI and Education, Human Agency in an Automated World, the minister stated some of the policies the John Mahama government intends to implement.
We will have to expand access to broadband infrastructure generally. In Ghana, we are all used to a major service provider who provides you access to internet. You don't even have redundancy for our purposes. We need to extend fiber and broadband to all educational institutions, in particular public tertiary institutions. You cannot prepare for an AI digital literacy future without internet connectivity. That would mean that we need to collaborate with the Ministry of Communication and other private sector in order to be able to provide that. One of the major things we intend to do is to roll out solar on all basic schools and free senior high schools in order to take them off the national grid. We intend that this year will announce a launch of that initiative.
Now, he further calls for collaboration among private school and international organizations to address and dismantle systemic barriers that perpetuate the marginalization of groups such as girls, children, and persons with disabilities from access to education.
The Convention on the Rights of the Child, adopted in 1989, goes further to stipulate that countries shall make higher education accessible to all. In Ghana, we emphasize access, relevance, and quality when it comes to higher education. When it was adopted by the UN in 2030 to work towards Agenda 2030 in September 2015, the international community recognized that education is essential for the success of all 17 of the SDG 4 goals. So you see, you need education in order that you can achieve all the goals that are set in the resolution that which was adopted in September 2015. In particular, to ensure inclusive and equitable quality education and promote lifelong learning opportunities for all by 2030. Ghana subscribes to this position. So as we promise, addressing these challenges requires strong partnership. The government, private sector, international organizations, and communities must unite to dismantle the systematic barriers that continue to marginalize groups such as girls, children, and persons with disabilities from accessing quality education.
Now, the United Nations Educational, Scientific and Cultural Organization celebrates International Day of Education, championing AI in education. The theme for this year's celebration is AI and Education, preserving human agency in the world of automation. An AI enthusiast argues that AI has come to stay and is a disruptive tool which should be adopted by all to enable easier task performance across all domains. Learners equally believe that AI has purposefully been designed for them as an assistant and not by way of taking away their critical thinking skills. Mamavi Sefakote has more in this report.
The integration of artificial intelligence in education has the potential to revolutionize the way teaching and learning is conducted. It has been realized that AI-powered adaptive learning systems can personalize education for individual students, while intelligent tutoring systems can provide one-on-one support. Again, automation of administrative tasks can free up teachers to focus on teaching and learning. This is not to undermine the threats that AI use in education can pose. As machines take over routine and repetitive tasks, what role will teachers play in the classroom? An AI enthusiast, a lecturer, and educational researcher, Daniel Fenye, shared his thoughts on the impact of AI on education.
We are adopting it, even though it is changing the trends of our lectures, the trends of our teaching, the dynamics of our learning and all that. It has some positive elements that we always encourage our students to adopt, and obviously industry is also using AI, and so if you are a student, you are in school and you are learning, it is incumbent on you to adopt AI, not to overly use it, because to some extent it can kill creativity, it can kill critical thinking, but you are encouraged as a student to make use of AI. So we have already observed that pattern, that students are tempted to overly use AI. So yes, some level of laziness is creeping in. However, we can't also downplay the presence of AI, the establishment of AI, and the fact that it is here to stay with us. It also implies that as lecturers or as educators, we give projects and assignments that will compel students to actually get involved in the responses that they give. If you give them projects that could be done with AI, you can trust that they will use AI to do it. But if you give them practice-based assignments and projects, then they wouldn't have any option than to sit, research, and then come up with responses.
Let's hear from students who are the beneficiaries of this novel technology.
As students, we normally use the AI apps for our studies. Maybe if you have your research works, you can use it for your studies. When you want to study personally at your own pace, you can also use the AI for your studies. You can also use it with your friends for your group studies.
AI has been very helpful for most of we the students. Mostly we use it for our group work, and also we also use it for our research. So it has been very helpful to most of us as well.
Basically, AI helps with studies. Like whenever you are studying something that is really complicated and complex that you can't really seem to understand, you can use AI to break it down and then understand everything in much simpler terms.
I don't think AI is making students lazy. I think it's rather making it easier for students to learn and, get more things done. Yeah.
No, yes. Sometimes it makes us lazy, but sometimes it helps in studying and makes research easier. Yeah.
You see, AI helps a lot in most of the assignments and stuff, but it also helps when you see you don't actually all the time open the book, but when you are given an assignment or something, and when there's AI, before you do it, you read it. So definitely you're going to get some understanding on it.
Can be both a help to and a disruption. But perhaps how it is incorporated makes the difference. Mamavi Sefakote's report read to you.
Now let's take it to Dwyer Nkwanta in the Ahafo region, where 64-year-old Chief Nana Kofi is devoting 70 acres of land inherited from his grandmother for environmental conservation through forest planting and livestock farming. Despite his age, Nana Siao is dedicated to forestry and believes that preserving the environment is just as important as protecting human lives. His efforts are aimed at leaving a sustainable legacy for future generations. Mahmoud Mohammed Nuruddin has more for Climate Focus.
I'm about 64 years now. When I started planting this timber, people were asking me, why are you planting timber at this time? Do you think it can meet you? And I say, not because I wanted to fell them or to do. I want the forest to remain and to keep the environment and the country very nice.
What you see here is teak plantation, one of the forests Mr. Sia planted. His reason is to protect and conserve the environment for future generation. 12 acres of Nana Kweku Sia's land are now covered with thick trees, while another 4 acres are filled with a variety of different tree species, adding to the rich biodiversity of the area.
Yeah, I'm having some species like Wawa is here, like the Citrella is here, Oframo is here, Mahogany is here.
In addition to forestry, Nana Sia is also dedicating part of his land to cocoa cultivation, further diversifying his efforts to promote sustainable farming practices.
Yeah, the cocoa project is it's a cash crop, and that one too is a tree. Once it's a tree, and at the same time it can give you money, then it's part of my mind that I wanted to keep trees. So I'm keeping tree, and the tree too will keep me.
Nana Sia also raises livestock on the land, integrating animal husbandry with his environmental conservation work. Nana Sia employs workers who live on the land to help protect the forests, livestock and crops. One of his workers, John Kimoki, says living near the forest provides numerous benefits.
So no, eba se wind blow no, tia na babia metia, nti me safe ewo sa asetena no mu. Ena wohwe eyi foreign say sisi na nyunu no eyi no mu ne nsuo no tono mu a, nti eno no eye bibia eboaye ewo ha.
At 64, Nana Sia shows no signs of slowing down. He has plans to expand his farm and is also working on producing tree seedlings for others who wish to plant them. A report by Mohammed Nuruddin.
We'll take a quick break, but still to come here in this bulletin. President Mahama promises the Volta region they will not be neglected under his administration, insisting the region will get its fair share of development. John Dramani Mahama has indicated that the narrative of the neglect of the Volta region for years in the distribution of the national cake due to its political affiliation would change. According to him, his government would ensure the region, which has played vital roles in the country's development and democracy, would receive a fair share of the national cake under his government. President Mahama was speaking in Ho at the start of his thank you tour.
The Volta region has always been a beacon of support for the National Democratic Congress, my party, and indeed myself, and has been a stronghold for Ghana's democratic progress since 1992. Your immense contribution to the success of our party and my election as President of the Republic of Ghana is a testament to the strength of the bond that exists between us. We cannot talk about Ghana's progress without acknowledging the vital role that the Volta region has played in shaping the course of our history. However, we also acknowledge your challenges, years of neglect and alienation from the development of our country due to your political choices. But I stand here today to tell you that this narrative will change. My visit this afternoon signals my commitment to ensuring that the Volta region receives its fair share of national development. Our objective to reset Ghana begins here in the Volta region. Together, we will work to correct past wrongs and work towards a future where every Ghanaian feels included and valued, regardless of your region of origin, your ethnicity, your religion, or your political affiliation. Since assuming office, we have wasted no time in taking bold steps to steer our dear nation back on course.
A group of supporters of the governing National Democratic Congress is demanding an immediate withdrawal of the appointment of the newly appointed Ghana Revenue Authority boss, John Drawny Mahama, 3 days ago, appointed senior partner at KPMG, Anthony Sapon, as acting Commissioner General of GRA. But a section of the NDC supporters have been protesting the appointment, including some who picketed the GRA headquarters. James Aveji has more.
Since Thursday, a number of NDC supporters have been picketing the Ghana Revenue Authority's headquarters here in Accra. Their demand is that the president should revoke the appointment of the new acting Commissioner General, Anthony Sapon. According to the party sympathizers in a statement on Thursday, they allege that Mr. Anthony Sapon, who until his appointment has been a senior partner at KPMG, is a sympathizer of the erstwhile NPP government. In that statement, they indicated that he was appointed by the former president, Nana Dankwa Akufo-Addo, to the Institute of Chartered Accountants, Ghana. Reason why they say they do not trust his allegiance to the NDC. This is the demand of quite a number of them who have been at the GRA headquarters here in Accra.
We are not comfortable with the appointment of the CEO that they made, because allegedly that appointment they made, the person is the NPP man. So he suffered for the party for a very long time. So we need someone they will appoint to come and take over as the party member, or those who suffered for the party to be at the acting CEO. He doesn't want violence, and then those who the appointment they need, we don't want that person.
How long will you keep coming here?
Past 3 days. So for past 3 days, today is a Friday, almost about 3 days now. We are coming. Even this morning, even tomorrow, Monday, we are here.
If the president doesn't change him, what happens?
Oh, by the grace of God, the president will change him. Because even the president knows what the nation needs. We need good quality people to help this country, so that we all, our family, me and you, everybody will live peacefully.
We want him to listen to us and then do what we want for us, for peace to reign. That's all.
But have you sent him an official petition?
Oh yeah, for that one, we talked to our leaders, and they are.
You say your leaders, who exactly?
Yeah, it's the youth. This thing that they just appoint.
Okay.
Yeah, we talked to him.
The minister designate for
youth and yeah.
George
Opariado, yeah.
What did he promise you?
He promised that he will sit with the president and then they talk about that and we do. But we have to do whatever. But we shouldn't be violence over there. We should do everything peace.
So he supports your
he supports everything.
They say that they will not stop picketing the GRA headquarters until the president heeds to their call. From the GRA headquarters here in Accra, I'm James Aveji reporting for Joy News.
Well, Tamale Commercial Court has set 30th January to rule on the preliminary objection filed by the defendant in the Kwandai election petition case. The defendant is seeking a motion for the court to dismiss a petition by the NDC candidate for Kwandai in the December 7 parliamentary elections, arguing that the petition was filed before the parliamentary results were gazetted. The petitioner, the NDC candidate, is seeking the court to annul results from some polling stations and order a rerun of the polls. Speaking to JoyNews after the proceedings, the lawyer for the petitioner, Eugene Aweti, said they have presented a strong argument for why the motion should be dismissed.
Today, because the first respondent filed an application to have the election petition dismissed on grounds that it does not comply with some constitutional and statutory provisions. And so we filed an affidavit in opposition to the application, and we showed up in court to oppose the application. And that's why we're in court.
So what happened?
Well, we made our submissions. The applicant took center stage and expressed his opinions and quoted some cases and some provisions why he thinks that the application, so why he thinks the election petition ought to be set aside. And we have also canvassed cogent arguments why the court should dismiss the application. And without going into the merits of the matter, because the issue is sub judice, I am restrained from going to the merits of the matter. But basically, that is why we're in court today.
The lawyer for the defendant, Sylvester Isang, stated that the petitioner should have waited for the results to be gazetted before going to court.
What basically is that we brought a motion to seek an order of the court to dismiss the petition that was filed by the petitioner. The main ground is that the petition was filed on 23rd December 2024. At the time that the parliamentary election results for Pandai had not yet been gazetted. You see, it's a basic requirement of law that before you can file an election petition, except where you are alleging corruption or payment of money. You see that they never deny that they are complaining about payment of money or corruption. You see, so except where you are making such a complaint, then you don't actually need to wait for the Gazette publication before you come to court. But what they are alleging, against the validity of the election, they are not mentioning corruption or bribing inside their allegations. So it is clear that they ought to have waited for the election to be gazetted like on the safe, then we now come to court.
This is JoyNews Prime. We'll take a break here. We'll be back with Showbiz. Please stay.